Welcome back to the Lenders Gone Wild podcast. I'm your host, Matt Meyer. If you have a chance, please like, subscribe, share this podcast. Really fortunate to be joined by friend and colleague Sam Rodriguez here from Vegas to spend time with us today. Really just grateful that you took time out of your travel to be here on the podcast and tell some stories with us.
Yeah,
so
happy to be here.
Tell the audience, Sam, just a little bit about yourself, your background in the industry, right? Obviously, this is Lenders Gone Wild, but you've got a long history on the real estate side of our industry.
Yeah, so I guess real estate agents can get wild too, right?
It's where it starts, right?
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate industry for 25 years now. Got started, I actually didn't even have a license when I got in the business. In fact, I tell people the recruiting call wasn't for me. It was for my wife at the time. And she said, nope, no way, not interested. And she said, ask Sam. And, I was young, didn't know any better. And I said, sure, I'll try that. And that's fell into the business. Also fell into the recruiting side of the business and leadership early on. So I got my start with a luxury boutique, started growth and expansion with them. And from there, I've had the chance to work with other franchise offices, other luxury boutiques. Had my own independent brokerage in Southern California with a business partner. We grew that pretty quickly. First 18 months, a couple hundred agents, 5 offices, and then.
What year is that? Like, how far back are we now?
Yeah, so that one was. So I got in business in '99. By that point, I'd been KW, been Coldwell, some other luxury boutiques, and then finally had the itch and launched our own. So that was in 2014, 2015.
Okay.
We did that for, like I said, about 18 to 24 months before the door started, people knocking on the door.
Yeah, made enough noise, right?
Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway, local office there, and EXP. And in fact, it was so compelling, the EXP model. Yeah. They're kind of the ones that laid the groundwork of a cloud brokerage. Me and my co-founder both walked away from our own brokerage and left our agents. Most of our agents didn't go, right? We left them behind. We both went into corporate roles there. So that was quite the ride too.
That was early, right? That's trailblazing times in the EXP cloud-based brokerage.
2,600 agents when I joined there. Joined in a corporate role for growth. So helped grow them from 2,600 agents to over 53,000 in just under 5 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you part of international expansion too then?
Later became, So at first when I was there, they hadn't started international other than Canada at the time. Even then, being very involved also with Canada because, everything that as you grow, the growing pains and the experiences and launching in the U.S. and different states, Canada started to have, kind of go through the same experiences. So it kind of became that go-to to kind of support that group too.
So I was going to ask that, like, as you grow internationally, right? I mean, it's one thing to travel around the United States. It's a whole other thing to plant flags and offices all over the globe. What is the actual logistical process of that look like?
It's probably a lot. Well, not the probably. It is very different in traditional real estate. You would think that we all jumped on planes and showed up and opened up new countries and locations. We didn't go anywhere. Honestly, Really? It was our entire global team. We did that again from our cloud offices, from the seat in our homes. Dining tables and offices at home. So not one of us actually ever got on a plane and stepped foot in another country to actually open any of these offices.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're still able to grow so much without even being boots on the ground.
Yeah.
I love it.
Also, COVID proved that too, not just, in the States, but, it was, if you can open up an office, cloud-based, I mean, obviously you can. There's numerous other brokerages now that exist following the similar cloud-based model.
Yeah. And then it was shortly after the time at EXP that we met.
Yeah.
Right. You started getting into the mortgage side of it a little bit and having some relationships there. So tell me about kind of that journey and then where you're at now and what you're up to today.
Yeah. So when I left EXP, I had already started. I say I was kind of duped into mortgage because I was never really a fan. In fact, growing up, I used to tell people I'm not a numbers guy. Probably all the wrong statements to make. I remember a real estate coach actually. Cody Gibson, if anybody knows Cody, he's a big KW guy, big time coach. I remember he taught a class, and I think many of us made that same statement. I'm not a numbers guy or person. And I remember his response was, when we were born, they weighed us, right? They measured us. Everything has a number to it, right? Your social security number, everything. We are numbers. We're made up of numbers. So my mindset switched at that point. But anyway, to kind of get back to the point, there was with mortgage, because a lot of connections that I've made in relationships over the past couple of decades. At that point, my mortgage partners, I guess they weren't my mortgage partners quite yet. They were recruiting me, and I said, again, I don't want anything to do with mortgage. I don't want to learn that part. I'm not interested. And they said, all you got to do is introduce. That's it. Yeah, just make. I said, that's it. They said, you don't have to learn anything. And I said, if all I have to do is set appointments, then I said, and introduce to my friends, I said, yeah, I'm in. And that's how we got to meet later on, right?
Through Keith and
Keith, Pete,
and good run we've had.
Yeah, so it was, I thought it was pretty successal in its infancy. We didn't get anywhere near where I would have loved to have gotten, but we have, right? It's through those relationships, those partnerships, that full circle, right? We did end up back working together.
Yeah, and right, the industry evolves, right? Whether on the real estate side, the mortgage side, compliance and rules and regulations, and
things change.
We've seen things change. You do something, you make enough noise, and then you get the scrutiny, and then they're like, well, we don't actually like how you're doing that, so now we pivot,
exactly.
Right? And then...
we agreed to that before, but now...
nobody cared when you were little. It was fine, right? But when you get big, then all of a sudden everyone starts to pay attention.
And that part is, I think it's, the mortgage industry has, tighter regulations in real estate. Not to say that real estate doesn't, but it's very different in mortgage.
It's very different, That's absolutely true. So... I'm grateful to continue to have our relationship and what you're doing at Epic. It's really, really cool. So I guess tell me just a little bit about, right, here we are doing the mortgage thing, introducing, and then launch into Epic and what's going on over there.
In fact, it's actually how the Epic partnership actually started was initially reaching out about mortgage. So we had launched a branch that didn't really it launched for like 60 days.
Okay.
I remember telling the first couple of guys that came in to help the Epic partnership, 90 days, right? It's gonna take 90 days because we'd lived through it already. Unfortunately, those guys left. I think on day 60. Yeah. And on day 61.
Was that at Essex, right? When that happened, I remember those guys. Yeah.
Day 61, Josh had the first buyer lead ready to go.
And they walked out the door.
And they were already gone by that point. So, but
that's the 3 feet from gold, right? From Think and Grow Rich, the same story.
Exactly. So it's funny that all kind of evolved. Started there, finding them first. I guess I knew Josh from my previous days at EXP, but like we always do, scrolling in bed on Instagram, saw Epic, and I'm like, okay, the logo caught my attention, the name caught my attention. Yeah. I saw it was Josh. I'm like, well, I already know Josh. Is this a team? Is this a brokerage? What is this? So that's how it really first started. But the more I kept following them, in fact, Josh likes to joke around and say that I stalked them, and that I slid into their DMs, and I guess I did both.
There you go.
I was just so impressed with their offering as a brokerage, and I knew I'd be back with a real estate company. Even though I was already now involved with mortgage, I knew at heart I'm a real estate guy. Yeah. And so I wasn't even hanging a license with anybody at that time. I just honestly didn't feel there was a brokerage worth joining.
Wow.
But Epic caught my attention and blew me away with their offering. Just never seen a national brokerage providing the kind of benefits and support that they're offering.
Yeah.
So and then it made perfect sense to at that point. I think it was less than a week after I cut my ties with my previous partners. I ended up on a call with Keith, right?
Yeah.
And I think Saturday, we had a 2-hour long call, and I'm like, I'm in. Yeah, let's do it. Let's work together again.
Yeah, I remember him texting me like, "Hey, Sam's coming." I was like, "Sam? Yeah, it's awesome." So, what about the offerings? Right, you kind of alluded to them. What about like for those who don't know Epic yet? What are some of the things that most attracted you, or you're most excited about that you guys are accomplishing right now in that space?
Yeah, I think it's agents always need support, right?
Yep.
I find a lot of brokerages either they give support, but there's comes at a premium, or there's just no support. In fact, it kind of feels more of that, and especially over the past 10 to 15 years, there's been a rise in the 100% company, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can only give so much if you're paying out 100% as well, right? We also know 100% really isn't 100%. So I love that it was really, the way Josh actually likes to describe it is like an all-inclusive resort. We're not the cheapest, but we never aimed to be the cheapest,
Right.
least expensive out there. What we didn't want to be was to join everybody else in that race to the bottom. Let everybody else be the cheapest and, not offer other stuff. And, that's where everybody's headed.
Right.
We don't want to look like anybody else. I don't think we act like anybody else. And the benefits are, a lot of real estate business related, free TC services, sign installation and removal, free signs, listing photography, right? Some stuff agents need all this anyway. But it was also some of the quirky stuff, right? I mean, over the past year from, we're kind of known as the car wash company.
Car wash, yeah.
We play off of that. We got t-shirts and all. It says, I'm only here for the free car wash. But again, people look at this stuff and, they start quantifying the value, and it's right. If you get your car washed, right?
Yeah.
Probably maybe once a week, maybe more.
Yeah.
Depends
on if it's haboob season here in Arizona.
That's
right?
true. I've had that. I'm from Palm Springs, so you guys probably had it first, and it went that way.
Yeah.
Car washes and childcare, free healthcare. Not a program where you have to sign up like with NAR or local association or anything like that. It's true primary direct care. And, these just weren't, you just don't see it in the real estate industry. You don't see it in other industries in general.
Right.
That's where we're always looking for ways to create more benefits, more ways to create income streams for our agents, which also kind of goes back to, the partnership too with you and all our other LOs and with Canopy. How do we do things in a way that will help them, again, with not only inside their business, help them close more deals, but how do we actually provide, be a true business partner alongside them?
Yeah. Well, right, you're solving the problems of real life, not just industry related, right? So the signs and the listing photos and all of those are part of the job, but right, who's going to take care of the kids or right? I have to travel to this conference, and that's an expensive ticket a lot of times, and
all these things add up. In fact, I think with the most recent set of benefits we released about 45 days or so ago, I think the current value is now for the average agent is about $37,000. Right?
That's awesome.
Right? I mean, and part of this, right? Everybody says, well, how, right? How can you afford to do that? It's not sustainable, right? I've heard these things too before, by the way, when I was at KW. We heard it at EXP. It's it's just yet the next wave and the evolution, or we say revolution because we really are changing the game for real estate agents, even if they're not with Epic. We're already seeing the effect on other brokerages making changes or adding more benefits. That's a win.
Yeah. That's it reminds me, right? Obviously, we've moved from Clear to Canopy, but right, I remember one of the first conversations I had there with one of the founders, and it was the goal is not just to grow this, right? We want to grow, right? People wearing the same jersey as us, and we want to grow our platform, but we want to disrupt the marketplace in a way that, right? For them, it was transparency. For you guys, it's benefits and right, changing how other people do business because of the impact that you have on the marketplace, right? The copycats, right? The mimics, that's a great testimony to the success that you're having, right?
There's also kind of the wave too, because if you remember, like during probably around 2021, it seemed like all these models were starting to come out, right? And it was teams that didn't have, or maybe they had an MSA, maybe they had a JV, but everybody's kind of looking for something different. And it seemed like everything kind of converged at one time, and you saw all these different models coming out, many of which don't exist anymore. So I do agree. I think more, the real estate industry started first, which was a lot like the insurance business, right? It was always ways to, how do you create other, passive income too?
Exactly.
And, that's attractive to people. I mean, right? Warren Buffett always talks about it too. His best kind of money to make is money that shows up while you sleep. Why shouldn't real estate agents get that? Why shouldn't LOs, have a similar opportunity?
Yeah, that's great. So, really enjoy watching the evolution of the industry, watching the growth in your career and in the team at Epic. So right now, how big? Where are you guys at? What's going on with the Epic expansion?
Yeah, so I'll kind of back up a little on too, because when I found Epic, there were about 100 agents in Texas. That was it.
Okay.
But again, when I was following them on social media, I was like, man, they're adding like 15 agents a month, 20 here that month.
Wow.
And I was like, they're small, but they're already growing like this. Like, why? So I came on board. I actually just celebrated a 2-year anniversary.
Wow.
We went from that 100 agents 2 years ago to about 4,000 today. Now 37 states in DC. With the rest of the U.S. expansion underway, and global expansion also starting right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's been a blast. I mean, and more than the growth too that I love is me being a growth and expansion. That's been my passion, my forte.
Sure.
But I love that the company doesn't focus on that. It's not, you hear other companies and they're pounding their chest. We're the fastest growing.
Yeah.
We're like, well, we're growing pretty quick too, and probably say we had that title too. But who cares? We are really after the quality. Not to say there's not quality agents other places, but we just don't need every single license here. We got some great agents. I mean, we got some amazing teams. In all the different states, top solo agents. So I do feel like this model also attracts a certain quality production.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of liberating, right? In the recruiting world, when you get to the place where you're so clear on what your value is and willingness to be able to say no, right? I've been in a couple places and seen a lot of people recruit, and it's like always a yes. Well, it's not. It shouldn't always be a yes.
That's exactly it. In fact, the luxury boutique that I got my start at, it was exclusive. I mean, it was funny. I remember calls used to come in, and agents were like, "I want to join the #1 company in the desert, right in Palm Springs area." And I would say, thanks, but we're actually not #1. But again, it was also perception. And it's because they were so exclusive. Like you had to do back then, right? This is late '90s, early 2000s. You had to do $3 million in volume minimum just to get your foot in the door there. And back then too, this is at that time, $950,000 average sales price. In 2000, we didn't have tons of agents. But they were it was definitely about the perception and the service and support. Yeah. It's why those top agents joined there too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was very reminiscent when I saw Epic, because even though that company and that market is no longer there, agents today, right? Just we're talking 10, 15, 20 years later now, agents are still talking about that company and the experience that they had there.
Wow.
And so that to me is again what also helped sell me on Epic, because agents will pay for value. In fact, all of us will pay for value, right?
Right.
You can go buy a T-shirt at Target, or you can go buy a T-shirt, right? Same size, everything. Maybe not the same brand. You can go to a Macy's, or even go to a Gucci, right?
Yeah.
But people will pay for value.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Right. And that's, again, back to the experience and back to the people, right? It's your why. It's not growth for the sake of growth. It's not, the leadership just working out for the leadership. It is, how do we build something sustainable? And it always comes back to the people.
Yeah.
Right. It always does. And that's really true in any business. So that's really, really, really cool. What is lots of growth, lots of expansion, some really great things happening, some disruptive value propositions. What's the kind of the end goal? What's the thing we're chasing?
Yeah, it's kind of a couple different responses to that. One, the main thing we are after is just being the best. Yeah. We believe the growth, everything else falls in line if you do right by, we just said earlier, right? Do right by our people. Yep. Support them, provide them the things they need in their business, the things that maybe that they don't even know they need in their business and in their daily lives. Yeah. So we feel that we'll become the largest someday, but again, it's not the primary goal here. If you are the best, it will just naturally continue to grow.
Right.
We're actually focused more on the retention side, which I love too. So we don't have a growth department, we don't have a growth VP, and we never will. But we already have a retention department and people helping lead that. So we're just, I think when you talk about what are we after, we're always looking. Like I said, how do we provide more for the agent? We're not done, right? We've added probably in this past couple of years more than half of the benefits that we provide our agents were just introduced in this past couple of years. Yeah. So it's always what else?
There's always there's something rolling out, right? We got PowerCon coming up.
Yep.
When's that?
June 25th, 6th, and 27th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something to be unveiled.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
Well,
it's all these different
here.
partnerships too, right? It's the benefits of right. It's a partnership too with you guys and with Canopy, right? That the agents there's reasons why, right? It's not like the old office manager who stands up every week and says, "Hey, use our title escrow mortgage," right? And that's it. Well, who earns in that scenario?
Right.
And this is different. These dollars that are created are actually put back into the company to help the agents, whether it's local events, regional events, national events.
Yep.
Our agents don't pay for, right? You said like PowerCon.
Exactly.
Other brokerages are charging hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Or definitely thousands to go sit closer to the CEO.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It'll never be that way. So, but there's benefits of not just, great service, but, then the agents are saving money too. So
Exactly. I love it. Well, and you're investing in them, right? They're
our
growing.
partner, yeah.
They're right. Their business is growing. Their mindset as a business owner, right? You're giving them all the skills that it takes to be successful, not just to transact real estate, but to really build a business. So, I love that. And we need more of that, right, in our industry.
For sure. Yeah.
Super excited to continue to watch that grow. What along that journey, right? It's not always up and to the right. What are some of the things that you've experienced, right? The ups and downs of the industry.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've kind of been through and what you've learned from them?
Yeah, I think now having gone through a couple dips, right? Makes me sound old now, but I guess it's a couple different things too. Because when you're younger, you also don't. You're starting to make money, and you expect the money to continue. And the crash that we all remember or don't want to remember, that hurt a lot of real estate agents, hurt a lot of companies, a lot of lives, right? I mean, that were affected from stock market. I mean, the right. Everybody in the world was affected by that.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I saw a lot of agents leaving the business. Then I saw a lot of them re-enter though too.
Sure.
So when you talk about those ups and downs, from REO markets to, riding the wave here, and a lot of agents that got their license in around 2020, 2021, very different, right? There was a lot of order taking at that time. So, as an industry, we always expect to, it's usually about every 10 years or so, right? That those dips and those valleys happen. But it wasn't quite the 10-year run this last one, right? When COVID hit and everybody kind of buckled down and brokerages were laying off staff but it didn't. It never happened. It took off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there definitely are challenges in any business, right? It's whether you're an independent office. In fact, right now, I think we're kind of going through that again right now, where we're seeing large offices, small offices, independents that are they're looking for help. They're struggling. Sure. And they kind of got their hand out looking for that assistance. I think we'll continue to see what we've been seeing here over the past few months already. Some mergers, acquisitions, right? I mean, we've even Redfin getting purchasased by Rocket, right? I mean,
I was going to ask what you think about that.
Yeah, it's surprising and at the same time kind of not surprising.
Right.
I saw it was I think Mike Del Prete who wrote the article about the Redfin experiment is over. It was a very unique model. I'm personally not a fan of the type of model that they were running. They ended up, I think, by the time when that acquisition took place, around 2,200 agents.
Yeah.
But I think it was more about the technology that the Rocket was really after. But I do feel I don't know that nothing really shocks me anymore. I mean, I think the news, even though it was not real news about Compass purchasing Berkshire Hathaway, at first I'm like, okay, that's huge. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, if that was real, which, I kind of wanted to wait to see if it was. And so far, everybody declining that it was true. But if it was, I mean, playing out the scenario, biggest acquisition in the past couple decades, yes. Probably worst acquisition, I'd also say yes. And again, I think it is because not just real estate, I think just in general, more and more businesses are moving to the cloud.
Yeah.
The amount of savings that they're getting that they can turn around and pass on, again, whether it's in a revenue share type model, equity type share models, investing into different things that create, again, back to the people.
Yeah,
the people that are actually doing the business should be rewarded.
Amen. Yeah, and that's right. I mean, you mentioned the partnership with Canopy, and that's what drew us there, right? Is that same mindset of what is the cheapest way possible to produce a mortgage, right? We're on a call actually vetting out some commercial options, and the CEO is like, why don't you guys just run with that? I don't need to get paid. I don't add any value to your ability to transact that business. So I don't need a cut. I was like, I've had some good CEOs. I've had some not great CEOs, but I've had a lot of really good CEOs in my career. I've been super fortunate with the leadership. I've never had anybody pass up a cut. Right? Like at corporate. That's
Josh is the same way.
Right.
I mean, I see, and one, that's part of our negotiation tactics is, to be able to get things down to fit our per agent budget so we can provide different services and support. But a lot of times too, one of the first words out of these other CEOs that are running these, tech or service providers is, well, we're gonna do a kickback. We're gonna give you this, and Josh is always like, I don't want it. Like, is there a way for you to legally, compliantly give something back to the agent, right? We know obviously in mortgage it's not as simple,
right?
But there's some of our other partnerships where we actually have the CEOs of these other companies literally writing out physical checks. They send Josh a picture and they're all fanned out, and they put those physical checks in the mail as some rebates back to the agents that are spending with some of these service providers.
That's great.
So again, it's
the non-settlement service providers, the non-rust recovery guys.
Exactly. Yeah. But any way that we can make it better for the agent. That's we're not trying to be in the back pocket of the agent on anything and everything that they're doing. We don't need to be.
Right. Yeah. I love it. That's really great. So as we kind of fast forward here, do you think Epic, it's going to be all 50 states? What's the deadline on that? Or what's the projection on that?
I think by summer sometime we should be in all 50.
Wow. Okay. So this year.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. We've already got another handful that are already in process. But the global expansion side is the part too that, the U.S. is great.
Yeah.
But U.S. expansion is pretty exciting too. So excited. I think, I don't know. That's any.
Can you share some of the places you guys got your eyes on, or are you starting to be working?
I think it's a given to, some of the, what we say, the easier ones, which are probably a little bit more like the U.S. To a degree. English speaking also helps.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the amount of interest that we've actually had since I came on board, before we even announced global expansion, there were weeks where we're getting numerous emails and phone calls from the Philippines and the UK, Australia, Japan, Finland, you name it. It's wild because at my previous brokerage, it wasn't like that. The phone didn't ring off the hook for people beating down the door to say, hey, how can we be a part of this? It was the opposite. And so I do believe I give credit to the brand that I think that's been created.
Yep.
So, Canada is definitely, a target here in the next 90 days or so that we should be open there. Epic in Espanol is pretty cool too, because that essentially is like recreating the entire company in Spanish.
Yeah.
Which is wild when you think about that.
Yeah.
But that was the vision of, Janice, our co-founder and CFO from day one.
Right.
So to see that coming to fruition, but the Spanish speaking portion of that will help as we expand. In this Latin American countries.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of our LOs met Janice at the last event.
Oh yeah,
and he's a native Spanish speaker, right? Yeah. From Mexico, and he's like, she blew him away with it. He's like, her Spanish is better than mine, bro. And I was like, yeah,
I'm sure
it's great. It's such a huge passion to be able to make the process easier again, it's
for everybody. Again, back to the people again, right?
And exactly.
Because you see other companies, some of them have some materials, right? It might be recruiting materials. It might be not much, really, right? And this is literally going to be creating the entire company all over again in Spanish. So to support, clients, right? You guys see it too on the mortgage side, right? Especially the Hispanic community, they like that face to face.
Yes.
So having the partnership again with you guys too to fill that void is helpful. But from contracts to when we can, right, in certain states, to phone support for buyers, sellers, our own agents, literally everything will be done in Spanish.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool. And we're grateful to be part of that. And I think it's a really, again, just being able to make something as big and scary as buying a house can be.
Yeah.
Right? You take some of that away by just providing service in someone's native language, like goes so far.
Yeah.
Right? To make that dream more of a reality for folks. So that's really, really cool. So tell me a little bit. I'm just going to transition here and go like, there's some really cool things that are happening along the way. Right. I told the story, previously about, right, like one of my clients getting catfished and actually like having like her down payment she sent to like release a gift package from customs.
Wow.
Lost her house. And it was her parents' gift money that they had already put into her bank account, which is why we typically don't do that. So buyers, when we tell you to just send your gift funds to title, have your donor give the funds to title. But just curious, right? Like the stories that you kind of go like, you sit around with over dinner or a drink and say like, I can't believe this thing happened, right? Because you're so deeply involved with the people, right? That you get to see parts of the story that unless you're in it, you kind of go, can't believe that happened. Do you have any of those kind of fun stories to share that you can?
Yeah, I think since I've been predominantly on like the leadership side of things, I get to see some of those like from the agent side of it. Yeah. But some of the ones that kind of stood out to me is more like the agent side actually.
Okay.
The one of the stories actually that came to mind was again, this is kind of to your point earlier about agents looking for more and tough markets. They start to have to look for other ways to make income. Sadly, this particular agent decided, I guess. Actually, I'm trying to think of what year that was. I don't even think it was one of the challenging years. Maybe it was just a dumb decision on his part. But so he ended up losing his license because he thought he can go make some extra cash selling some fake Louis Vuitton bags out of his car.
No way.
And so and then there was a process of having to go and really beg to get that license reactivated, and obviously not in the full activation. It was restricted. But even having a restricted license, I mean, some brokerages won't bring an agent on even with a restricted license. Yeah. So that was quite the process, and having to explain that to to your ownership and be like, well, here's what happened, and
for the rest of your career, right?
Exactly, that'll forever haunt him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to make a side buck.
Right. Yeah. And I don't even know how much a fake Louis Vuitton bag even costs.
I have no idea. Wow.
So I've had things even with myself, right? I mean, I was thinking of one too where I remember interviewing an agent, and this was early on in my career. I remember, she's across the desk from me, and at the end, I just didn't feel she was the right fit, and I said it as such, right? I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go a different direction, but thank you, and I'll never forget this one because she shocked me. And she says, it's because I'm fat, isn't it? And I said, wait, what? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, I said, if I said anything that made you think that at all, and then by the way, have you seen me across the desk here? So I'm like, okay, that was an interesting one.
Wow.
So it just, I don't know if that agent ever, I don't think she ever actually even got in the business, or the name I don't think ever came across my desk ever again. But yeah, you go through some weird stuff.
Yeah. You see and experience some kind of wild and a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So I was like, okay, that's the first and only one I've ever had on that one. So hopefully the last one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So any like crazy things that you've done to recruit somebody, like? Right, I think coaches recruiting kids in college sports or kind of things like they'll do.
I like doing fun stuff. I like to have fun with it. I remember one agent, he joined. So he was leaving Coldwell Banker. He had joined our luxury boutique that we were at, and market was shifting at that time. That was the luxury boutique that ended up later going out of business. So I saw the writing on the wall, and I ended up switching to the dark side, and I joined Coldwell Banker, and I remember we actually so now I'm trying to recruit him back to Coldwell Banker. And I remember, you know how like those the like birthday cards you open up and they sing a song, whatever, right? Or you can record something in there. So whatever little tab thingy that's inside there, we did that on a gift box, and so put a Coldwell Banker polo in there for him. Had it shipped or had somebody go deliver it to one of the couriers, deliver it to his office, so that when he came to the front desk to open it up to see what the gift is, he'd open up the lid,
awesome.
And it played the song "Baby Come Back."
Oh, that's awesome.
He did end up coming back too, as well.
So it worked.
Yeah, it did work.
I feel like a lot of times, right? It's the little, right? Like just the little gestures, they mean so much.
It is. I remember another one we did too was it was for a luxury event campaign, and we hired one of our agents' kids, put him in a tuxedo and rented a limo, and we had a limo driver drive him all around town to all the agents, all these luxury agents, to their homes. And in fact, so I don't know how this one actually happened, but they tracked one guy down, was not at his home. He was in downtown Palm Springs at the Starbucks. And so this kid gets out in the limo, right? Everybody's watching, and comes out to deliver this nice little invitation to this luxury event. So that was a cool one.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. I'm going to have to steal that one.
Yeah.
Right? Start recruiting some LOs with.
There you go.
Right? A
limo, but you're right. It's being unique.
Yeah.
It's have fun with it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, Sam. So, any final thoughts? Any, things you want to share?
Just really, I'd say, we're always looking for the right partnerships, right? Again, coming back to the people again. And so, for what I guess what I would recommend, I didn't do this when I was younger, and I regret it. I don't know about you, but there was opportunities that showed up on my doorstep that I was always happy where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
And I was everywhere I've been, I've loved where I'm at. Never had any regrets of anywhere I've been. It's all been great experiences that leads to the next. But I do regret not ever just taking the meetings.
Sure.
And I think that's my caution to other people is, what's it going to hurt? Like, one, helps you understand maybe a competitor model.
Exactly.
How do you? In fact, I even had an agent. I remember when I called them, and they said they didn't want to meet with me because they were afraid that they were going to like what I had to say. And I'm like, that's the weirdest statement I've ever heard. Like, you're afraid of that there's something better out there, and it shouldn't be that way. It actually should be the opposite of again, take the leap. Like the biggest regrets are actually not taking the leap.
Sure.
So lend the ear, check out. I mean, it goes for anybody, any company, any business. Explore different options. How do we know if there's not something better out there if you don't take the time to explore? Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, it goes on the mortgage side too, right?
For sure.
in our relationship, as we continue to support Epic's growth, right, we're going to find those right qualified teams. We're going to need to find those right fit LOs.
Yeah.
Right. We're looking for the right people.
And speaking of those teams, right, it's to my surprise, I feel like there's a lot of teams that don't know this opportunity exists for them.
Yeah.
And maybe they've had a bad experience, right? Those horrible MSAs that have been chopped.
Yeah, the JV that never delivers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, surprisingly, I've also had discussions with teams that have never been offered an opportunity like that.
Wow.
Blows me away. And so, if that's if you're looking for something, a mortgage partnership, they should reach out and talk to us.
Yeah, I love it. So, thanks, man, for being here. It was always a pleasure. It's great spending time with you. I love hearing your story and your heart for continuing to improve and impact our industry. So, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks, Sam.
You got it.